What we did find was that forced mergers actually don't do those things. They don't necessarily bring down costs. They
Right.
don't improve quality, and they don't tend to sort of disperse and promulgate equity in a way that you would want. As a legislator, it's really important for me to have affordability in mind and to be mindful of our property taxes and our taxes and what folks are spending there. It's also my job to make sure that I'm taking care of children in the state, families in the state, communities in the state. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creamy.
Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creamy, Season 2, Episode 15.
Episode 15, and we have some splaining to do about the episode
Numbering.
Numbers, right.
Yeah. So last week you heard Episode 17 and also heard us talking a lot about how we couldn't believe it was Episode 17.
I was like, I think
And
I'm just going to
was.
cut out the number.
Yeah.
But then we wouldn't shut up about it. It was like the whole intro was just us talking about that number.
We just got really into it.
We did.
We really, we really, our spreadsheet is right. It's just we pushed them out in a different order. So that's what's happening, in case you're wondering. We can count.
We can, yes. We
That's what
just
it comes
can't
down
plan
to.
our episodes properly. But we wanted to get that one out because it was just such a great episode.
We're just being dynamic and agile.
Yes, I second that.
So we're having a little bit of a moment. We had some really exciting publicity.
We did. We were
Yeah.
reviewed in 7 days. It was a big spread.
Ken Picard did a beautiful full-page review for us. We couldn't be more flattered.
It's very nice.
Oh my God, so nice. I honestly, it's been amazing. People have been like sending it to us, and we push it out on social, and we've had like tons of new listeners and followers on social, and I think we just want to say like thank you. Like we're so flattered and happy that people like the show, and
Yeah, thank you. And if you are one of those new people, welcome.
yeah, welcome. And, we haven't said this in a while. We said it a lot in the beginning of the podcast, but, we always want to hear feedback. We want to hear what you want us to be covering and what you liked or you didn't like. And, just say it nicely. But, we love to hear what we're doing right and what we could do better, too. How was your Thanksgiving, Andy?
It was nice. I went down to North Carolina
Yeah.
and visited my daughter, who's a Marine, down there on Camp Lejeune, and it was good to see her. We had a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. We were talking about, we did have venison as well, but she had a friend whose husband would not hear of skipping turkey for ham, and so he made a very, very good turkey.
Nice.
He injected it with all kinds of butter.
Did he like brine it and stuff?
I have he said, at one point, he said there were 7 sticks of butter in what we were eating at that table, and I didn't know if it was all in the turkey or if it had been spread around the table.
All right.
But, I consumed a lot of butter on Thanksgiving.
It's appropriate.
Got to do some shopping with my daughter.
Yeah, Black
then-
Friday shopping.
Yeah, and then on the way out of town, we went to the firing range, and Corinne shot a bunch of things.
Wow.
And we got a little turkey target.
Uh-huh.
And, I shot an AR rifle.
Holy.
With a muzzle brake, and it was so loud.
Oh.
And it's the muzzle brake, I guess, takes away any kickback. So there was no kickback, but it just makes it loud, and the concussion is insane. Like you feel your brain jump in your head.
Oh my God.
I would not want to do that very often. I fired a few shots. Corinne was not having it, and my son-in-law fired a few shots, and then we put that one away. Went back to the pistol.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
I have a turkey target in the back of my truck that's all shot up.
Oh my gosh. That's so intense.
It was very American. We ate turkey and then we shot things.
Yeah, you did. You had a like all-American Thanksgiving.
There's only so much to do in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So
Right.
yeah.
We had a really nice Thanksgiving. We had Steve's parents up as planned, and they saw Issa, my kiddo, perform in Les Mis the weekend before. And then we, as planned, we watched the parade. And Steve surprised me with, I texted this to you, Steve surprised me having printed out the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade bingo.
Yes.
And it was awesome.
Where did you see the giraffe? Was that an early float?
Toys R Us. Toys R Us.
Okay. See, we had to step away and go shopping for a little bit, and I
Yeah.
missed it. My bingo card was hopelessly behind, and you'd already won.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. Steve and I actually won at the same float, and that was super anticlimactic for me because then I couldn't like jump up and scream like, I won, I beat you. That would have been a nice Thanksgiving.
Oh, I didn't know you tied. I thought you had won.
Well,
I
I only sent you the
that
picture
meant
of
that
me
you'd won.
having
Oh,
won.
okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. But it was so.
That was false advertising. You didn't tell me. You didn't disclose
No.
that you had not won.
You're right. That was a sin of omission. I mean, I really enjoyed seeing Foreigner.
Yeah, I missed
and
Foreigner.
Debbie Gibson.
I saw
that
Debbie
one,
Gibson.
right?
That was good.
Yeah, that was. Like I said, I love to see like who they unearth.
Oh yeah. And
That's
Cool and
the
the
best.
Gang, although they were not performing Joanna.
I know.
That's a missed opportunity.
Oh, I was hoping that it would be like a montage. Maybe it was. I can't remember, but I was kind of waiting for that to come on.
It's like their fourth or fifth most popular song, so they could have, in a montage, they could have gotten to it.
And it's like Joanna, especially when I was a kid, was like such an obscure name. Like, you know, when you would like, well, maybe because you're a dude, you didn't have this as much, but like you'd go to the store with your friends and there'd be like pencils or keychains or whatever with like everybody's name, but no Joanna. Yeah. Never a Joanna.
I think you are the first Joanna I ever met.
There you go.
And I believe we changed the name of that song to Banana when we would sing it as kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So they didn't play Joanna, but it was fun to see Cool and the Gang and just the parade. It was so good. I have to admit, I had a little like I was kind of hoping that Kermit might reemerge, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But Snoopy was there.
Well, apparently, I was listening to a podcast about this on the way to North Carolina. It's an ordeal. Like it's an expensive proposition to create a balloon.
Yeah.
They take up a lot of space and they don't last very long. They last like 3 years.
Yeah.
And so you're either in or out. They don't just have like a big warehouse full of balloons. They think, hey, let's get Kermit back out there this year. So.
Okay, so we had an amazing interview today with State Senator Martine Gulick from Chittenden Central. She's also one of the co-chairs of the Education Redistricting Task Force. And so for those who aren't like hardcore education policy nerds and or you would like to become one, the Education Redistricting Task Force is a task force that was created by a law passed this past spring called Act 73, part of Vermont's education transformation.
Yeah, I mean, the task force was considering, well, they were, when we get into this in the conversation, to draw maps for the districts, but they were also tasked with making sure that there was quality and they took into account all the stuff. And
I love when Martine like went through the list of things they were supposed to do. It was crazy. It was like when Santa unfurls their list of names.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think this is a time, like this is one of those moments as Vermonters where we really need to dig deep and go beyond the soundbite and try to educate ourselves because our future is really up for stakes here.
Yeah.
And we think we had even heard that, the task force just had to draw a map. Yeah. And they were tasked with so much more, which actually made it somewhat contradictory to just draw maps with districts on it. And that's what we get into in this interview. They have a report out. It's on the task force webpage. It's not that long. I think it's like 40 pages, but there's some appendixes in there too. It's really accessibly written.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they have a link to like another 170-page document that you can, if you are so enthralled that you want to go to the sequel and read more, you can do that. But I think it's really worth everybody's time to read their experience, hearing from Vermonters, sifting through data, and how they responded to that.
Yeah, it was written really well. It was really consumable.
Yeah.
It's funny, we're talking about, something we're kind of wrestling with right now is like, this is about the future of Vermont and something we're trying to do for the next generation. And kind of bumping up against what seems like some other forces, or concerns that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the future. And it kind of made me think about our interview with Amanda Janou and how some countries have future commissioners right? And I kind of wish that Vermont had a commissioner of the future or whatever it was called, because I just think it would be good to have someone advocating actively and with authority for the next generation right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we want to avoid reacting, and that's something we also get into in this interview, is that we've sort of gotten here by reacting to crisis in different directions, and that's going to put us where we are. We need to step back and make a rational decision. And the release of the tax letter December 1st, that's, predicting a double-digit tax increase, yet again, or starting at that, and then the legislature will work it from there, does not help that conversation.
Yeah.
It creates more urgency and a more likelihood that we'll react instead of thinking this through.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we really hope that you guys enjoy this interview, and we think that you will.
This episode of There's No A in Creamy has been sponsored by Phoenix Books. Every click has a cost. In the time it takes to hear this, Vermonters will send over $1,000 to Amazon, a company built on exploiting workers and squeezing small businesses. In times like these, our sponsor, Phoenix Books, wants to remind Vermonters to support Main Street over Wall Street this holiday season. Shop local. Shop your values.
Hello, and welcome to There's No A in Creamy, Senator Martine Laroque Gulick.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we are super excited to talk to you about the Education Redistricting Task Force report, which long awaited has come out.
Yes, it has. December 1st, as scheduled.
Yes, absolutely.
We were there for most of one of those sessions,
Yeah.
and it was grueling just being there for the one day. You had 8 sessions.
Long
plus,
day, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy and I split it up between us.
Yeah. And looking at the report, it just seems like members put in a lot more work than was visible on those cameras.
Yeah, that's true.
And, there's been various comments about the work so far. We've heard the governor refer to it as a failure. We've actually had Phil Baruth, who's the Senate Pro Tem, say when you are charged by majorities in the House and Senate to do a task and you accept an appointment to a body to perform that task, it's not up to you and not within your purview to say, no, we're going to do something completely different. How do you respond to those comments?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, but I would say disappointing for sure. I think we had 11 folks on that task force who really dug into the work, who really it sort of took over our lives for 3 to 4 months. You mentioned that we had the 8 meetings, that we had the 4 public hearings, but there was a lot of other work going on. I was invited by my colleague, Senator Wendy Harrison, to go down to the Brattleboro area because she really wanted me to experience what it's like in rural Vermont. We drove the small, tiny roads down in and around Brattleboro for an entire day. I actually spent 2 days down there. I spent the night down there. I spent 2 days. I met with school board members. I met with superintendents. And I'll tell you, it was an education. Thank you, Senator Harrison, for insisting that I do that because actually it was great. I live in Burlington, so rural Vermont is obviously, part of my world, but to experience it as, let's say, a student would experience it, driving from home to school, was really fascinating. I drove down to Killington and I met with superintendents one day, as did my co-chair, Edie Granning, and we listened intently for a couple of hours to superintendents from around the state of Vermont speak to us about their concerns and their challenges and their hopes for education in Vermont. So we took it seriously. We dug into the work. If you can see that there was a lot of time and effort put into it. So it is disappointing to hear our state leaders call it a failure. I think we did some good thinking about the future, and I like to call it a roadmap. I think education transformation should be a roadmap. It's something that should happen thoughtfully and iteratively, and in a way that takes in a voice and takes in data and research, and isn't just a reaction. Anytime we do something in a reactionary way, I shouldn't say anytime, but often it doesn't turn out great. And we are all very emotional right now. We have been faced with this tax increase, 11.9%, 5.7 of which is actual education spending.
Right.
And we are reacting to it in an emotional way. And I think we should make sure that we temper that emotion with data, with research, with thoughtful solutions. I'm really sort of like beseeching my constituents to lean into the report, lean into the work, and not just react.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to dive into some of this report in this interview because it's good work.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you flagged that, like the data and research and like this, like we have to continue believing in science, right? And that's like, this is research. Like we need science evidence-based decisions. We can't just be making it up.
Yeah, I agree. And this, I've been saying all along, we were an advisory body, so this is the advice that we're putting forward. Obviously, the legislature will do what it does, right? It can go in a completely different direction. I do hope they use this report to help them craft maps if that's the direction that they take, because there's a lot of curated information in this report that I think could be really helpful.
Yeah.
So, another comment from the governor, said it would appear that those who didn't fulfill their obligation are okay with ever increasing property taxes, cost of education, and they don't want to see change. Personally, I don't know how you deal with a coworker who approaches you with that level of sarcasm and anger and denies that you're approaching the table with good faith.
There's a real attitude issue there.
Well, I look at this report and it to me represents a lot of work. So you cannot say that people didn't care. And I think we saw that when we were in Winooski, that people care passionately. And you can disagree,
Right.
but I think everybody cared.
Yeah.
So I would love to dive into some of the work that you did and the recommendations you made, what you based that on.
Could I just speak
absolutely.
real quickly,
Yes,
though,
of
to
course.
this idea of change? I find it, like you said, just the tone and the attitude there is not helpful. But I also find it interesting because it's been said by a few folks that there are those of us on the task force who did the work don't want change. And I just find that interesting because there are some systemic issues that I think you both are aware of that plague, I would say, our school system that we've tried to fix over at least the last 2 years since I've been in the legislature, the last 3 years. We had a bill S66, for example, and H483 that would have sort of reined in some of the money that sort of flies around the state in various directions and would have put some guardrails around our very complicated system of non-operating districts and tuitioning and things like that. It would have sort of worked toward creating capacity in our public education system. And folks clearly didn't want that change. We've put forward some really interesting ideas in the past that folks didn't want. So to say that those of us on the task force don't want change, just not true.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
I mean, you are proposing changes as well.
We are,
They're
exactly.
just not the same changes as some of the leadership.
Yeah. No, we are definitely proposing changes. And there is actually a really great map in this report, as well as some ideas for consolidation. Yeah.
So when you approach the work, it looks like you have guiding principles. Did you start there in the report? It's very early on. Talks about some of the outcomes you hope to achieve. Is that where you started to think about what are the principles that we want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling folks to dig in if they can, look at Act 73 and specifically read the part about the School Redistricting Task Force because it's interesting in what it says and what it doesn't say, right? It wants us to draw these new lines with districts that are 4,000 to 8,000 students. It wants us to get public input, but then it doesn't say what to do with that public input. And then there are all these qualifiers, right, that I love to bring up to folks because they don't realize it wasn't just draw maps. It was draw maps and make sure that you're considering regional services and designated agencies, geographic barriers, including mountains and rivers, population distribution, location, capacity, and facility condition, index score of current school buildings, transportation and employment patterns and practices, grand list values, homestead exemption, current education spending, student demographics, debt, liabilities, assets, staffing levels and salary scales, opportunities to support local elementary schools, central middle and regional high schools, career and technical education, the maximization of cost efficiency, the location of schools and CTE centers, and any other factors that you might find relevant.
Why didn't they
What's
just tell you,
left?
if you're just drawing maps, just say, draw us a map, no other requirement,
Yeah,
and then pass that down the
yeah.
assembly
Well,
line.
that's what I
Exactly.
don't even get. Like
Yeah.
I used to be a GIS specialist for the state, and I mean there is a team of cartographers who work for the state who could have been commissioned to just make a map. But yeah, that list is long.
Yeah, there were times that list felt kind of paralyzing because we were like, well, if we do this, then what about, this? And so yes.
You boiled it down nicely here
So
in this tenet
we
here.
did-
Do
yeah,
no harm.
Right. We did feel like we had to set some goals and some parameters.
I love these guiding principles.
thank
Like
you.
Andy and I were joking that we should like adapt them for the podcast. Like they're so great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did. We didn't want to do harm, obviously. As a legislator, it's really important for me to have affordability in mind and to be mindful of our property taxes and our taxes and what folks are spending there. It's also my job to make sure that I'm taking care of children in the state, families in the state, communities in the state. It's not one or the other, it's both. So those guiding principles really set the tone for the work that we were going to embark on over the months that we had together.
So you walked through a lot of data. You heard from a lot of Vermonters, upwards of 5,000 Vermonters inputted into this. And you did come out with some concrete proposals, short-term and long-term, to get to savings and to improve quality in the system. Let's talk about what are some of those recommendations that the committee made to improve the education system?
Yeah, that is a great question. And one of the our principles around obviously cost and around quality and around equity, those were terms that kept coming back over and over and over again. Before I get into a little bit of what happens in the report, what we did find was that forced mergers actually don't do those things. They don't necessarily bring down costs, they don't improve quality, and they don't tend to sort of disperse and promulgate equity in a way that you would want in a huge undertaking and massive disruption, right? So that was something that really started sending us in a direction that you'll see in the report. But yeah, so the first part of the report talks about the cooperative education services, which is really an important step in creating economies of scale, especially in small rural states like Vermont. They tend to be really helpful in states like Montana, Wyoming, Maine, New Hampshire, small rural states that struggle to create those economies of scale, especially in rural areas. And one of the interesting data points that we discovered in this work was that we are the most rural state in the country in terms of 66% of our population live in rural areas. So that was kind of an eye-opener for a lot of us. And it again sort of spoke to the cooperative education model. So what that does it allows districts or supervisory unions to contract together to share resources across a broader geographic area, and thereby, creating savings. And we already have a sort of a BOCES model, if you will, in a couple parts of the state. And they did the one from the southeast region of Vermont came in and spoke to us, and they showed us savings of between 10 and 40%, and they showed improved quality in what they were getting. So it just makes sense. They're used in close to 40 states in the country, and they are proven over and over again. Some of them have been around for decades. It was really helpful to have Jay Badams on our task force. He's a former superintendent, and he came from Pennsylvania, where they do have those intermediate units, which are a form of cooperative education services. So he could speak very eloquently to what they do and how they work. And yeah, to me, it just makes sense for our state, given our rural nature.
Right.
And it's not very disruptive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is not theory. This is being applied in other
Right.
states and is showing savings. And I know, I mean, as a rural school board chair, I felt very isolated. And people would say at town meeting, cooperate, buy in bulk.
Right.
But there wasn't the legal structure to allow us to do that. And it was very challenging.
Yeah.
Yep. And we talked about consolidation a little bit. Had some mixed successes with Act 46. Some areas it worked and some areas it did not. So you've proposed a voluntary merger where there are incentives where you can control that at the local level, apply it where it makes sense, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Act 46, to your point, first of all, it took years for districts to actually merge.
Yeah.
Some are just now getting sort of up to speed with everything. So we're talking 3 to 5 years. Not easy. You talk to anyone who's been through it, and they say it's a lot of work, and it unfortunately diverts a lot of attention away from instruction and education to these sort of administrative tasks. I heard that from superintendents over and over and over again. So yeah, this would be unlike what we saw, for example, in the state of Maine, where we force these large mergers, which has been, they're such a great example because they started doing this work in 2007. And you can see that there's been minimal savings. There's been a lot of upheaval, and you now have districts leaving their merged larger factions. It's not working. So it's been, it was a lot of effort, time, and money, frankly, for minimal return.
Sure.
So they're a great example. Act 46, as you said. So the idea that we propose is really strategic mergers, and we even name some of them in the report, and allowing sort of local control, local boards, and grassroots efforts to come together and make this happen with help, obviously, from the AOE and the Secretary of Ed and the governor. It's just time and time again, it shows that kind of work is much more successful in the end.
And there has to be some motivation behind it. That's where we find is consolidation works when the communities are behind it and they want to work together, and when they're forced to do it, they just don't work well.
Yeah.
It's just with anything. Like, it has to be a community-driven, community-centric, student-centered, family-centered decision for the community to make it work. Like, if it's just being forced, how could it work? It just kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. And I really wish the governor took it upon himself to go and do the kind of public outreach that we did on the task force.
Yeah.
He, in my opinion, should be going around the state and having town halls, just hearing people speak, right? Just
Totally.
listening to people.
Don't you think that we've had, and there's no question in my mind, that in Burlington, we've had more like public input opportunities, public hearings, that kind of stuff for like changing parks
Yes.
than the public really got for this
so true.
massive statewide effort, you know?
It's so true. And the Listen and Learn tour that Secretary Saunders did was interesting. I did go to some of those. I thought they were good, but they were kind of scripted. She came in with a whole sort of pre-prepared way she was going to go about doing the input, and we were responding to specific questions as opposed to just sort of like speaking about what we wanted and what our hopes and dreams were and what we see as problems with the system. So I really wish the governor would do that.
Yes.
I'm inviting him to do that.
It's difficult to sometimes parse out the public input and then votes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they run
That's true.
counter to each
That's
other.
true.
And
Yeah, we did acknowledge also in the report that we did not hear from everybody, and we sort of knew that going into this. It's really hard to hear often hard to hear from marginalized voices. There are often, single moms who are working multiple jobs and can't get to where they need to be, can't get to our meetings, or don't have the opportunity to be able to Zoom in. So we acknowledge that that voice was largely missing from our public input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have cooperative services that can provide almost immediate savings.
Yes.
You have strategic mergers that are more mid-range.
Yep.
And then the last piece is regional high schools. That's a long-range plan. Talk a little bit more about how that would work.
Yeah, the regional high school plan, I think Representative Granning and I were both really excited about that. The more we heard about some of the inequities, especially at the high school level, kids not having access to AP classes and not having access to sports. And it just seemed like, wow, if we could regionalize our high schools and provide opportunity to all kids, that would be such a win. And at the same time, as you know, we have these old aging buildings
Right.
that are, they're riddled with various contaminants, and they're just, falling apart. We have, since the moratorium on school construction aid in 2007, those buildings have just they just keep deteriorating. And so if you look at a town like Woodstock that desperately needs a high school, and there are other schools in the region that are also in need of major investments in their infrastructure, why not build a regional high school that could draw in all of those communities? Or if not build a new school, then fix one of those schools and have that be the catch-all for the region. We looked at Washington County that has Barry, Montpelier, U32, Twinfield, and Harwood all within, I believe, 20 to 30 miles of each other. Yeah. And we thought, there's a part of the state that's over-schooled. There are too many buildings. I believe Montpelier's in a floodplain. I believe U32 actually has room for the majority of those students. So, why not think about a regional high school there? It becomes trickier in Chittenden County. That is where a lot of our schools are quite full, if not full at this point, and we have a much greater population. So it, again, wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
But we do have that proposal in the report. It would require some investment in infrastructure, which I'm hoping that we can tackle this session.
Yeah.
And it would incentivize those connections.
Would it incentivize construction in the short term, or would you seek to get there through attrition, or maybe that's a decision that we make down the line? Or
I would like all of this to be like a thought out, well planned, way of doing things, as opposed to just let's draw lines and see what happens.
Yeah. It's hard to escape that cycle of reaction.
Yeah, it is.
It's
it
people's
really
taxes and it's people's kids.
I know.
And it just could not be more charged.
Yeah,
it's so hard
it's really
step
charged.
back and take it logically.
Yeah, but, what we were trying to do here was what can we save right up front? And that can happen, as you say, with the cooperative education service areas. And then what can we do long term, which is incentivizing mergers and regionalizing some high schools. I mean, it's a roadmap. And I'm really proud of the work, in spite of some of the critiques.
Mm-hmm. I like this approach because what it feels like to me is you're creating opportunities for districts instead of a mandate, and that feels totally different. Like as a parent of a high schooler, right? Like, I mean, we're probably okay here in Burlington, but in general, I like the idea that the state could be saying, hey, these are things that we could offer your district. These are things we could facilitate. These are ways that you could grow and improve, instead of saying, you have to do this whether you like it or not.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it reminds me, there's so many parenting echoes in here, it's kind of the same. Like if your kids, if you convince them that you're giving them something, you're creating an opportunity, they're a lot more likely to take it than you saying that, no, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Well, and you've also grounded this in a lot of data. So you get about halfway through and you flip to the data that you use to come to these conclusions, which I think is critical.
Yeah.
Because you can agree or disagree with some of these, but this data and having the reasons behind the proposals
Right.
makes it a conversation. And that's what it should be, is a long-term conversation about how do we
Absolutely.
get to where we want to go versus two ideas trying to smash down each
Agreed.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
So Martine, our pro tem had a quote in Vermont Public saying, what the foundation formula does is it sets a ceiling for every district. It says to them, you're only going to be able to spend this much. That way, the system works right now. The way the system works right now, there is no cap, and that's part of our problem. Could you respond to that for us?
So what I would say to that is, so the idea of a cap, his statement doesn't seem well informed in terms of what's happening right now. Most districts in the state of Vermont have been since COVID and are now pretty much level funded, right? So they are not increasing programming. They are not hiring. They are not, wantonly spending. They are actually level spending. So any increase that we see, that 5.7 increase that we're seeing this year, where is that coming from?
Right.
Okay, it's not because they're spending more.
It's cost drivers.
It's the cost drivers,
Yeah.
and that was not what we were supposed to do in our task force. And so obviously, although there is we did put data in our report about cost drivers, it wasn't really something that we were supposed to react to. But those cost drivers, you look at 5.7, they are a big chunk of that. Salaries and benefits, obviously, are part of that. And then you know what the cost drivers are. The cost drivers are deferred maintenance on our buildings that are that's coming due. Cost drivers are healthcare costs. They used to be about 5% of education spending, now bumping up closer to 20%. Social services and mental health services. These are putting great strains on our education spending. So I was surprised at that comment. And the only way a foundation formula is going to lower costs is if we take money out of the system, which means we are underfunding the system, which puts communities, families, and students in dangerous situations. And I have to balance the financial and fiscal affordability of the state with the needs of the people. It's really important.
Didn't we have a cap, though? I mean, you and I have both been on a school board, and we have to go before the voters every year.
That's right.
And that's the cap. And what's usually I was explaining, or is now explained to me as a taxpayer, is that we've cut art or we've cut music, but health insurance premiums went up this much.
Right.
And so as taxpayers, we say yes if we feel that we're cutting services to deal with these costs. So now the state that would be done at a high level by the legislature instead of taxpayers. Our legislator is going to make different decisions about that. Are they going to say, no, cut more?
Yeah.
I guess the question is, if there's a cap, where do we want that cap to be, with taxpayers or with legislators?
Yeah, that's a great question. Perfect. You spot on. Mm-hmm. And the legislature changes, right? Every couple of years we have new legislators, and who knows what the future holds there.
Some of them don't know the education system very well, too. Have you noticed this?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, in all fairness, It's taken me, and I'm a lifelong educator, It's taken me a long time to understand it, and I still
don't. But all
don't
the more reason that maybe it should be in the communities.
Right, I know.
Sorry.
No, it is very complicated, and one would have to really lean in and spend a lot of time reading Title 16 and reading the 2200 series and learning about the State Board of Ed and all of it. It's a very complicated policy area, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you. I think another danger that I've heard from folks with foundation formula is, that money does follow kid there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money follows students. So what kind of guardrails are we going to have around where that money is going? Is the money going to, again, start going out of state, going out of country? Is it going to be more easily funneled into private schools? And I mean, that is a whole other conversation, right? Equity around private schools versus public schools in the state of Vermont. We know that they don't follow the same rules, especially around transparency. It's sometimes hard to get data because the transparency of private schools is not the same as public schools. So those issues, those governance issues, again, I'll bring it up again, non-operating districts, supervisory unions versus districts, and tuitioning, those problems to me, I'm calling them problems, those realities that we have here in the state of Vermont need to be addressed before we should contemplate a foundation formula. As far as I'm concerned, there is too much complexity and inequity in the system now for us to go to that model. I think it will, frankly, be destabilizing for the state.
Can you help me understand?
Join us next week on There's No A in Creamy for the second half of our conversation with Senator Martine Gulick. Okay, welcome to Last Licks. We've had a heavy conversation.
Yeah.
And it's time to kick back a little bit, ask the maybe easier questions. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, but
what do you got for me, Joanna?
Well, so this is fun because we learned that we both really love the Muppets when we were talking about, before Thanksgiving and the parade and Kermit retiring, which is tragic. And so we have a Muppet-themed Last Licks, and we're asking each other, Andy, what Muppet do you most identify with and why?
I have a Muppet that I identify you with, but
I really want to hear that.
Next.
Well, I want to hear both. Okay.
I've always identified with Kermit.
Right.
He's always been, and this sounds silly, but he's always been my ideal for a leader.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't want to be a leader. He's not setting out to that. He is surrounded by lunatics.
Yeah.
And just happens to be the most sane person in a group of people who are Muppets that are mostly not sane.
Yeah.
He has his freakouts. He's stressed, but he commands through respect. And I've always looked to Kermit as a good mentor for leadership.
I love that so much. I love the scenes when he's just like chilling backstage. It's so good.
Do you remember the Sesame Street skit with him and the little girl saying the alphabet, but she keeps inserting the word Cookie Monster for a letter?
No.
I'll send you that clip. That is the clip that you need to watch whenever you're having a bad day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I really like the clip of him from the Muppet Show. It's like it might be the first season when they have him. He's like drinking something through a straw, and the water is going down, and he goes, "Think about it, folks." But in his actual not my terrible impression.
Right. The multiple levels of the Muppets, amazing.
It's like so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think part of my affinity for the Muppets, as I think back on it, was that my parents would actually sit there and watch with me because they were getting something out of it.
Yes.
They were not going to do that with the Gummy Bears cartoon, but they would do it with the Muppet Show.
Yeah, Issa and I mean, when Issa was little, we were like ridiculous and didn't approve of like any children's programming.
Yeah.
And
we all start out so idyllic, don't we?
God, I was insufferable looking back. But we got DVDs of a bunch of all the ones that were out, the first, I think, 5 or 6 seasons of the Muppets. And we would watch those with Issa. And it was really fun.
All right, Joanna, which Muppet do you identify with?
I don't know. I mean, even though this was my idea, I actually, I'll tell you, my favorite Muppets were, this isn't answering your question, but I will answer your question. My favorite Muppets were always, just bear with me. I really liked the Swedish Chef.
Yes.
I really liked the whole, he's like doing his thing, and then he's like, just whatever, anything goes, and just kind of rolls with it. And it's just pure chaos, and he's just singing through it. And I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. And I also really like Beaker, but that's not really, there isn't like a metaphor in there. I just like Beaker.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I think, honestly, sometimes I think that if I had to like identify with a Muppet, it would be Animal. Is that the one you had for me?
Yeah, because you have the same hairstyle.
No, what I like about Animal is that he goes into every performance like, okay, I'm calm, I'm calm. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And like, you know, he's like trying to like do it and like listen or whatever. And then at some point he just like lets loose and like the music emerges. And I find that very freeing and I like that.
Did you watch the new series that came out a couple years ago on Disney Plus?
I don't know.
No, it's pretty good. There's a scene where Animal quits the band and he goes to a temp agency to find a job, and it's pretty funny.
Oh no. Yeah. Wow. I didn't see that.
It's the guy who played John Raphael in Parks and Rec is the the guy trying to place him. Are you
serious?
Yeah.
That guy is brilliant.
Oh, it's a good skit.
Oh my God. Wow. You have some Muppet gems here.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. So that's funny, that Animal. I don't know. Our hair? I'll have to see what stylist
Well, I
uses.
don't think he has curls, but
no.
As far as volume,
just a pure
direction,
disaster.
color,
lack of control.
Randomness of pleasure from day to day.
Yeah.
All the stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you're prone to your rage attacks too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fair enough.
All right.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.